So the first one, I would solve it by counting still. You can do the calculation if you want. You have points where you can identify their coordinates, but because it's on a graph and easy to find, I would just use the counting method. The slope is rise over run, so I'm going up 1, 2, 3. So that's my rise. My run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the positive direction. So I have 3 over 5 as my slope. Because that's a positive number, my function is increasing. Okay? So that one's pretty straightforward. The next one also straightforward. This one gives you coordinates. They're reasonable enough. I mean, if you wanted to try to plot them, you could, but going from -11 to 14 is going to be a long set of counting. So I would use the calculation for this and take the slope is equal to, and remember the slope is calculated as the change in outputs over the change in inputs. So the outputs are my y's. So you can go in either order, but I'm going to go ahead and put the 14 first. So 14 minus a -11. Minus minus becomes a plus. So there's my numerator. And then my denominator is the change in the corresponding inputs, the x's that yielded these outputs. So the 14 was arrived at by an input of -2, minus the -11 was arrived at by an input of 0. And so when I simplify this, I get 25 over -2. When I write my answer, put the negative sign in the numerator. And so you get -25/2 for your solution. And now the nice thing with the way that this system is set up, most of my questions are set up in calculated form, meaning that if you have your entry box, the field to enter your answer for this problem, you could have taken 14 minus a -11, close that off, divided by -2. You could have written this or just left it, but if you entered this entire set of calculations into the field box, the preview should show the decimal form that is the correct value for this problem. So you can enter your answers as calculations if you want. All right, so that one too, also pretty straightforward. The one that's not quite so straightforward is this last problem. Okay. Did anybody figure out how to approach this last problem? So they didn't tell you an ordered pair, right, x and y. What they gave you is they gave you a function notation set equal to some number. But from that, from each of these, so here and here, can you identify an ordered pair that represents that solution set? The input of -1 yields an output of 7. So do you see how that corresponds directly to this ordered pair? Okay, same with this. F of 14 means my input of 14 as an x is going to give me an output, a y value of -3. So just by looking at the function notation equation, you can identify what the ordered pair looks like. And then once you have that, you can use your slope equation. The difference of y's, so 7 minus a -3 over the difference in corresponding x's, -1 minus 14. Minus a minus, we change the sign. It's equivalent to adding the opposite. And so when we simplify this, we get 10 over -15. Reduce that fraction. 5 goes into 10 twice. 5 goes into 15 3 times. We'll move the negative up top. And so we have -2/3 for our answers. So in looking at both of these, our slopes were negative. So we have a decreasing function for each of those scenarios.